And up next, we have someone who's actually very experienced in our community and used to serve on our planning commission and has for a very long time been involved with making Ann Arbor a better place to walk and to bicycle. And she's now the project manager with the Clean Energy Coalition. And let me introduce Erica Briggs.
So again, I'm Erica Briggs from the Clean Energy Coalition. I'm here to talk tonight about the development of Ann Arbor's bike share system and also what bike sharing is. So this is the simplest definition I could find for what bike sharing is. And it wasn't too jargony, so I put it up there. But it's basically bicycles made available for shared use to individuals on a very short-term basis. It's a fleet of bicycles around an urban area that are available for public use. But we've probably seen, if you've heard about bike sharing, there's been a lot of iterations of bike sharing over the past 30 years or so. So this is what's known in the bike sharing world, and this is the first generation of bike sharing. The yellow bikes or the white bikes out of Amsterdam. Great idea. It was this paint bikes a certain color, put them out in the community, allow folks to use them. Unfortunately, there were a few issues you can kind of see. There was vandalism, theft. They ended up in odd places. They still work in certain kind of communities, but widespread, they haven't worked very well. Here's the second generation, and it's still working pretty well in a lot of different places in the world. This is a picture from China. It tried to address some of those issues that came out of the first generation, where, trying to provide a little more security. Maybe there's a kiosk where somebody's sitting at the kiosk and you check one out. Maybe there's a kiosk that you put in some money, a few coins or a dollar bill or something like that. And that cut down a little bit on the theft issue, but you can imagine if you're staffing a kiosk, that starts getting pretty expensive to put those up in a lot of different places around a town. Or if it's just a couple of coins that you're putting in, that's not a very huge deterrent towards theft, so it became an ongoing issue. So these work in certain places, but widespread, they don't work in most urban areas. But this is bike sharing today, and this is what we're talking about in terms of bike sharing coming to Ann Arbor. So bike sharing's evolved in terms of these bikes. You can see this is a B-cycle system. The bikes are specially designed for bike sharing. The thought is that they're going to be out all the time. They're theft resistant. They're vandalism resistant. Everything's kind of in case. There's no good wires to cut. There's lights on them. There's baskets. You walk up to a kiosk. You swipe your credit card, and you can check out a bike. There's a wayfinding map there, so you can see where the different locations of bike sharing stations are around the downtown. And then maybe on the other side of the map, there's sponsorship or some sort of kind of way to sustain the system financially. So that's what it looks like today. I talked a little bit about how it works. The idea for this system is that anybody should be able to use it, whether you are an office worker or a student at the university, you have somebody with a smartphone, somebody without a smartphone, somebody who hasn't ridden a bike in 20 years, or somebody who rides a bike every day. They should be able to come up to the system, figure it out, and make it work for them. So you can sign up on your computer to become an annual user. You go and walk up directly to that kiosk right there and swipe your credit card. And that's how most people use bike sharing. They're walk-up users. So they've stumbled upon it, and they just want to, hey, this is a great idea. And you want to make it really easy for them. So basically you check out a bike and you go to your next destination, which the idea is that they're kind of set up around an urban area, and those destinations that you would want to go to, there should be a bike sharing location there. The more stations there are, the better the system works. But the question is kind of, why is bike sharing reemerged? Why has it gotten so popular over the past few years? Why is, you start reading, you start realizing these are popping up in cities all across the country. They've been operating in a lot of different systems around the world outside of the US for a while. But I think this is the system, the Velib in Paris, that really made cities in the United States, kind of metropolitan areas, wake up and realize this was a way we could solve some of our congestion issues. And you can see in this system, there were 54 million bike trips in the first 2 years, 100,000 trips per day. And it was credited with reducing car trips in Paris by 10%. I've seen anywhere between 5 and 10%, so I'm not sure exactly what the right stat is, but pretty impressive. So it reduces congestion, improves air quality. Increases transit usage. The idea is if you don't have to think about that transfer, if you're just taking your, riding the bus one stop and then you know you can count on bike share, you don't have to worry about that transfer. Or in large metropolitan areas, or even in Ann Arbor, where you have issues with congestion on transit, like the North Campus to Central Campus connection is, we're running buses every 2 to 3 minutes and they're full. And for the university, that's a pretty huge problem. They need to figure out a different way that people can get between those two locations. So it's also an opportunity to relieve some of the pressure on those systems. And of course, it's great, it's healthy, it's active transportation. So a lot of these systems have been funded through public health grants around the country because public health organizations are beginning to realize this is a really tangible program that we can put down in cities and impact our obesity and health-related issues that are, of course, all across the country. That's a picture from the Capitol Bike Share proclaiming all the wonderful things that have happened since they put bike sharing down in Washington, D.C. Really some fun stats on there. But one that I think is fun to point out is that it really improves that access to local businesses and increases economic vitality. I think that the ridership data out of D.C. said that 9% of the users there used bike sharing to make discretionary trips. So they didn't really anticipate actually going out and making a car trip making a trip during the day, but once they became a bike share user, they realized, well, actually, it's a little bit easier just to go out and do that errand than I had expected. So a lot of the shops, even in places outside of big metropolitan areas like DC, Boulder, Madison, are seeing that people are making a lot more trips than they anticipated using bike sharing. So it's a big boom for their systems. And it's, of course, a nice green transportation option that we can get behind in terms of our issues towards trying to impact climate change and that. So now getting to, that's the what and the why it's becoming so popular, what's happening here in Ann Arbor. Basically, we've been working for a number of organizations, the City of Ann Arbor and the University of Michigan have been thinking about bike sharing for a few years now and looking into it. But in November of 2011, this partnership came together with the City of Ann Arbor, Ann Arbor Transportation Authority, University of Michigan, the Downtown Development Authority, and Clean Energy Coalition, which is a nonprofit here in town, to try to figure out how do we actually bring bike sharing to town and to seek funding for that. So here's a couple of the milestones that I thought would be of interest to this group. In last summer, we were awarded $600,000 of congestion mitigation and air quality funding for the capital expenditures, so the bikes, the bike share stations, the engineering that go along with bringing bike sharing. And this past winter in March, I guess it's not that long ago, 1 month ago, we selected B-Cycle as our vendor here in Ann Arbor. So that was done through that, you saw that group that's come together. There was an evaluation team that came together, and we put out an RFP and reviewed and decided that B-Cycle was the vendor that we are going with. Here's one of their promotional materials in terms of this concept of be connected, so that all these systems that have all these communities that have B-Cycle have reciprocity now. So you can, if you're a member in one community, you can use another system for free. But there are 15 B-Cycle communities in the United States, which I think that there's about 20, maybe a little bit more systems operating around the country right now, overall with other vendors as well, and it's growing exponentially. So there are 16 more systems planned across the United States in 2013 alone. So a lot of cities are really looking into it. But B-Cycle is the one that we chose. It seemed a good fit for a community like ours. They'd worked in Madison and Boulder and communities of our size and could provide us with a lot of resources and expertise and guidance because, as you can imagine, putting a whole new transportation system into a town, even if it's bike sharing, really comes with a lot of different sort of nuances with that. So it was really nice to be able to lean on them and their expertise working in similar communities. So we're looking at putting down potential, bike share stops in a lot of different places across U of M campus, Central campus, definitely North campus, South area, probably near South campus, in the hospital area, downtown, including Carytown or South University, State Street, Main Street, and looking at all those key spots that we could, all those areas you kind of think you might want a bike share station. Those are all the spots that we're looking to see if there's actually a footprint and room for all that. So evaluating each of those different spots. We're anticipating about 15 stations and 130 bikes to begin with. That's kind of what our estimate is right now. And that's what we hope to see soon in the future. That's a picture from a woman who was traveling in the Believe system and blogged about it, and that's the kind of happiness that we're hoping to, folks are going to be experiencing here in Ann Arbor, hopefully next spring when we anticipate launching. Right now we're looking for doing all of the site planning and fundraising and community outreach that goes along with it. So if you're interested in any aspect of that, feel free to get in touch with me later.